I looked up ESPN. Who wrote this? I don't even know who wrote this. It just says ESPN, so who knows who wrote this thing? So they have a list
That's
of.
AI.
I was looking for the name of Jeff Passan, but that is not
Yeah.
the name that is on this. There's no name actually. So top potential candidates. The associate manager of the Guardians, Craig Albernaz, is on the list. Like you said, Dusty and
Yeah.
Bochy are on this list. Ryan Flaherty, who's a Chicago Cubs bench coach and former player.
Yeah.
Buster's homie, Mark Halberg, who was the Giants' first base coach. Nick Hundley, who it seems like, I mean, you'd have to pull him out of his current job with the Texas Rangers as a special assistant to the general manager. So he would have some understanding of the things that Buster and Zach would be dealing with based on, I'm assuming, his kind of mentorship there. And then Skip Shoemaker, who it sounds like is who the Rangers would want to follow Bochy.
Yeah.
And then Tony Vitello, who is currently the head baseball coach of the University of Tennessee and won the College World Series. So that's what ESPN says. Have you heard of any other names that strike your interest?
I haven't heard. I mean, Mark DeRosa is another one that was thrown out there, former Giant. I mean, he wasn't like big time former Giant, but he is a former Giant. And he managed the USA team in the World Baseball Classic. That's another name that I've seen out there. I don't know how I would feel about that one. I love D-Row. I think he's awesome on MLB Network. I think he did a good job with the USA team. But what kind of experience is there? That's the hard part. So I guess I've also thrown my hat in the ring to say I also want somebody with experience, not just somebody young, but with experience, which is a little bit harder to find. But Hallberg has some experience in the major league clubhouse, day in and day out, working with Bob Melvin. Albernaz has experience. He's in Cleveland right now. He's bench coach, so he's got some experience in the clubhouse, in the dugout. I think that's what I'm looking for, not just a former player. Nick Hundley, that's the name you threw out there. Also, I've seen that name. That would be an interesting choice. He's worked with Buster. But Buster and him were basically on the same roster, catcher and backup catcher. Hundley's a guy who I think last or 2 years ago when the Giants were doing their search, he declined because he was, just freshly out of baseball. But word is that he's going to end up somewhere with somebody at some point being a coach. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, out of all of them, I think Albernaz is probably the most intriguing. Halberg would be a great pick. I think those two guys are probably the front runners, I would say. But you never know. I mean, this search is starting the day after the season ended.
Yep.
So there's gonna be a lot of names that are floating around out there.
So Rob, who's hanging out in the chat, shout out to Rob. Also shout out to Davis, aka Drip, who's in the chat as well. Rob's list includes Hundley, Ned Yost. Didn't we beat him in the World Series?
Yeah, we did. Poor Ned Yost. I've got some old Milwaukee Brewer Ned Yost cards from back in the day too.
Mike Matheny, Ron Wotus, who's old school Giants, and Grady Sizemore. I got some Grady Sizemore cards in MLB The Show.
There you go.
And so that's his list. I wanted to put that out there. The interesting thing that you said about 5 minutes ago was about how Buster is looking for someone that he can partner with for a long time. And it's such a crazy thing. And this kind of pairs back to who he wanted to be the GM, right?
Hmm.
And does somebody who and has worked with you and has worked on your staff before, does that person have the inside to that job versus somebody that you don't know just because you're like, oh, we have this thing. And I'm specifically thinking about Hallberg because they do know each other and they are friends. And at some point, I'm sure Buster has probably told him, you'd probably be a really good manager, And so now he would have the opportunity to make that reality if it fit the way that that they would want it to. But I was thinking about that because how do you create the opportunity for this long-term pairing based off of a resume and based off of a job interview and based off of a conversation about baseball? Because it's not like you can take a month to make this decision. They're going to have to make this decision several days after meeting people. And it's really like it's like anybody who's been in a job interview. Some of it is like, oh, for whatever reason, on this day, at this point, we aligned, or this person was really charming at this point. But at least with Hallberg and anybody in the Giants organization, or anybody who Buster played with or even played against, I do wonder if that favors people you are familiar with for this kind of role. Because it's not like, now the flip side would be if Buster thought that the Giants had the best roster in baseball and it was the coach's fault manager's fault for them not winning the World Series. Like Phil Jackson getting brought in to coach the Lakers. Like, he's a hired gun for one reason. He wasn't hired with the Lakers to be there forever. He was hired with the Lakers to straighten out a situation where they had a talented roster and they had guys who were not on the same page, and he's the guru at that. So that's not what this is. This is
absolutely
Buster's hire to put his imprint on this baseball club. And like you said, the goal is probably to be here for a little while and to be a partner with and to win, some playoff games. And that is a different discussion, which is why I wonder if someone like Hallberg has a little bit of the inside track.
I assume they do, because whoever is getting hired is there to be on the same page as Buster Posey and implement Buster Posey's vision of what championship teams should be. He's played on championship teams. And again, you can't run it back. You can't go get Bochy. And then, because if you're going to do that, you might as well, Buster, you might as well suit up and get behind the dish again. Because, I mean, if you're trying to run it back to like the glory days and all of that, that's just not going to work.